In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at how companies and how organisations can choose messaging to influence, to persuade, to convince, and potentially to coerce people to do what that institution or what that organisation would like the person to do. I think it's a really fascinating area to have a look at, to understand about what tools and techniques are being used to encourage people to make decisions. So it says here, persuasion requires understanding. Coercion requires only power. We usually equate coercion with obvious force, but sometimes it's far more subtle. If you want people to stop smoking, for example, you don't need to make it illegal. You can simply make smoking expensive by raising taxes or offer bribes, lower health insurance premiums. Both are still coercive in that the power to give or take away resides entirely in the hands of the coercer. Persuasion is fundamentally different because it relies on understanding what smoking does to the human body. Someone who's persuaded of its dangers has an incentive to stop that's entirely independent of anyone else's actions. So what we've got here, we're in a really fascinating place in the world. So we currently have a huge global rollout of a vaccine. We've been told here on the NHS website that it is safe and effective. It gives you the best protection against coronavirus. So what I've also got here is some of the marketing material from NHS, Public Health England, about the vaccine. In this case here, a guide for older adults. And I've also got here a letter that someone has received to book in your coronavirus vaccine appointments now. And then what we've also got is, for me, one of the most fascinating and open and transparent strategic plans of how to optimize, in this case, the vaccination rollout. So this is on the government website. So it's the Behaviour Change Unit in partnership with the Public Health England and the Warwick Business School, optimising vaccination rollout, the do's and don'ts for all messaging, documents and communications. So this is a 17-page document. I'm not going to go through all of it now. For me, it's absolutely fascinating to see what has gone into this this presentation, which is the do's and don'ts by the audience cohorts. So this was December 2020. So prior to the real start of the huge, big global rollout of the vaccination. So it explains, first of all, who the pack is for. So this is really important and valuable for those picking this up to know whether or not this is relevant to them. And then it talks about here about identifying your audience cohort. So this is an important thing to do when we're thinking about how we can encourage and persuade people to do something, a desired action, understanding the different audiences. And then it's kind of starting to give examples here about weaving the relevant insights into your message. And this will reassure your audience and enhance your impact. So why does all this matter? So they're providing the behavioural challenge. They're talking about what coverage that they need. They're talking about the percentage of people that are currently undecided or conditional. And it's explaining why this document and why this behavioural challenge, behavioural change work has been done, why it's been commissioned. A behavioural approach can enhance impact as part of the programme. So now it's setting out how to use this pack, making your messages more compelling and support the wider vaccine rollout. And it's about incorporating these messages into guidance, letters and other communications, which of course is something that I've got here. So to see the behavioural guidance and the direction, and then to have actually a leaflet in front of me, really allows us to connect up how they've been using this information from the behavioural insights team. You can get some additional support as well. So then what we've got individual pages for different cohorts. So this first one is for systems leaders, managers and coordinators. So then what they've done here on this document, which is very transparent and quite detailed, is saying here what to do, about what not to do. Then it's sharing specifically the messages and actions that will land well. So they've been very prescriptive here, so it's not leaving any ambiguity really with what people need to do to pick up and use and harness these messages. It's then talking about the delivery route, so it's going to be weaved into guidelines, letters and documents, and also digital media, so internet, email, social media. And then here, you've got the behavioural insight supporting this advice, and it's based on the mind space framework, which I'll come on to shortly. So it's now providing which of the behavioural triggers, levers, they are using for this. So salience. Our behaviour is influenced by what our attention is drawn to, what is novel, what seems relevant to us and to our personal experiences, and what we can understand. So keep it simple. And then also it's using ego. We act in ways that makes us feel better about ourselves and support the impression of a positive and consistent self-image. So they've got this structure, and then they've got more do's and don'ts. And it just follows all the way through, and then it provides some more behavioural triggers, in this case commitment, and also defaults. So this is fascinating for anyone that works in user experience, in customer experience, that has worked or studied in human-computer interaction and psychology and persuasion. Then I'm sure you'll be recognising some of these things. So these are the techniques that the NHS are using and harnessing based upon the mind space framework. So then what we've got a second section. So this is where they've broken down. Effectively, these are the cohorts, these are the personas. So it's incredibly transparent and very detailed, really looking at individual triggers and individual behavioural techniques to persuade and potentially coerce people into doing what the writers of this report would like people to do. So there's lots of messages about reassuring messages, and there being dedicated resources. And then we've got a section here about care home residents. So it's explaining what to do, explaining about the positives of why care home residents are going first. And then the information here: you are going first in the rollout for your personal protection, quality of life, family access, and return to normal. It's got some more behavioural insights over here. Bringing in about the emotional associations that we can have. About using authority. About using incentives. So here we've got some do's. So to provide incentives, certification that the care home has achieved the required vaccination levels and visible, tangible acknowledgement for an individual who has had the vaccine. Don't allow perception of coercion or obligation. So they're talking here about posters in care homes, and also I'm halfway there, I've taken the first step, badge or sticker for a 2-dose vaccine. Also recognition of the care home's achievement from a recognised body, such as a letter from the NHS-EI. And then you've got for the cohorts for over 65, so do reassure and empower them. Don't describe them as being vulnerable. Telling you here that this vaccine is effective in your age group and will allow you to return to normality, which means freedom to do what you enjoy, such as group classes, swimming, seeing friends and family, and getting your life back. Leverage anticipated regret in communications. The effect, behavioural insight. Our emotional associations can powerfully shape our actions. Provoking emotion can change health behaviour. Do consistently and regularly provide NHS information about the vaccine. This will be one such thing. All official information. Vaccination helping to protect the most vulnerable. So we can see from this literature here that the behavioural insights that were established back in December 2020 are being harnessed here. They're talking here about misinformation is widespread. See our NHS resource for patient information, and say that most people are getting vaccinated. And then we've also got health and care workers, so the recipients. You can safely see your vulnerable friends and relatives after successful uptake of vaccination. Consider incentives like celebratory staff and family days once things are back to normal. And then I think the final cohort we've got is for young people. Don't ignore the science, but don't overplay. Young people have lost trust, and this may trigger conspiracy theories. You are key to achieving community immunity because we need about 80% coverage. You have a very important part to play in the national effort. Normality can only return for you and others with your vaccination. Acknowledge conspiracy theories. Apparently NHS messages will be more trusted than government messages. Do highlight popular normal life activities that young people can engage in once they have been vaccinated. Socialising, sports and exercise, work, lectures, events. Focus on we're in this together. The more young people vaccinated, the safer it will be and less likely will be future lockdowns. If you want to be able to do what you want, then having the vaccine is the fastest and safest way to achieving this. And then we've got this information here about what happens if a patient takes a first vaccine dose but not a second. What could be done to nudge people about the vital importance of getting that second dose. So they're using, again, different behavioural and different persuasion techniques, commitment, ego, changes which have been well known to behavioural scientists. It's got information on where these insights came from. Workshop conclusions. Then we've got a summary. The summary of the primary barriers and drivers per population cohort, so the workshop results. So you've got each of the cohorts, you've got the behavioural barriers, you've got the behavioural drivers. This is something that I've not really seen before in all my years working in user experience and customer experience. The breakdown and the work that's gone in and the behavioural insights and understanding and techniques that are being employed here are quite incredible, to be honest. Very, very specific. And then when you do look into letters that people have been receiving, you can see the messaging here, the wording. The guide for the vaccine. What is it? You can see here the connection with the different cohorts here and who should have the vaccine. Will the vaccine have side effects? So then the final section of this 17-page report is from Mindspace. So this is a Whitehall behavioural insights team. And the Mindspace, they've used this as a mnemonic, as a checklist of influences on our behaviour for when to use when making policy. And that's going to conclude this review that I've done. It's quite a fascinating look at how messaging is being communicated and what's being shared with members of the public, and how messages and behavioural techniques and psychological triggers are being used to encourage people to have a jab. Thank you very much for watching. Please do let me know if you've got any thoughts or any comments on this, particularly if you work in user experience, customer experience, and have used some of these different techniques to persuade and encourage people to make a decision. God bless you and protect you. Agape, Paul.